And by our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, thank you as always. So the French president always speaks so logically, but we heard there the WHO raising concerns about these extra booster shots. What is the position of the Africa CDC?
Africa CDC is also against this position. The argument here, Francis, is that as the continent, it took us time to be able to access vaccines because the developed countries, particularly the G20, or one should say the G7 in particular, bought these vaccines in bulk, even before they were manufactured. Now they have these quantities and consignments that they have. They can't even administer all those doses that they have because of vaccine hesitancy in their own countries. And they have already inoculated almost 60% of their population. Now, on the continent, we are only starting. It was only yesterday where CDC announced that we have been able to procure 400 million vaccines, and they are already being dispatched to different countries by UNICEF and thanks to Aspen in Port Elizabeth. Now, when they go for the third shot, the booster, it means we are again going to struggle to get vaccines. And therefore, the developing countries are going to suffer. And this is another form of vaccine apartheid, because some countries have only vaccinated 10% of their population. In other words, Africa will not be able to deal with this problem of COVID-19.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the figures are so low, Sophie, in terms of Africa. There we heard that even the goal of achieving 10%, it's looking further and further away. I mean, are we making any progress on achieving herd immunity?
It is very difficult. Very few countries and very small island countries have been able to vaccinate a number that can lead to herd immunity. But majority of countries, particularly the most populous countries, they haven't reached even 30% in terms of vaccinating its population. Some of the vaccines, it's just first dose. Remember, when you use Pfizer, you have to use 2 shots. And Johnson & Johnson is much better. It is only 1 shot. Therefore, you haven't even completed your course in terms of the first and the second shot on Pfizer. Other people are already using Pfizer for as a booster for the third time, and therefore it is going to be very difficult to reach the herd immunity. The second issue is the current variant, the Delta variant, has affected even younger population, and when targets and time frames were set, the intention was to look at particularly the vulnerable population. And therefore, now you have to adjust or to tamper with your targets and time frame in terms of herd immunity, because you have to take into consideration the young population that is affected, and therefore you have to give them vaccines as well. And let's take a listen at what Dr. John Gengasong had to say about this problem of herd immunity and the variant.
The most important thing is to achieve our 60% target by the end. If we do that, then we are on our way to at least doing any adjustments. Any adjustments would not be impossible to achieve at that time. It could probably be just adjusting it to maybe 75 to 80% of our population. So the foundation of our success is to get to 60%. Once we get there, then we should be able to quickly adjust if there is need to adjust upwards to get there, which I think there will be need to make those adjustments based on the biology, the pathogenesis of the virus that we are seeing there. So I think let's remain positive. The key here is for all of us to work collectively so that as these vaccines that are beginning to be introduced on the continent arrive, they should get into people's arms very quickly. If we vaccinate at speed and at scale, then we blunt the emergence of these variants, and then we don't have to deal with them later on.
All right, Sophie, Africa has announced that 400 million doses, and we know there's been a lot of concern about the slow procurement, the lack of coordination. Does that signal better things to come? And I guess then you need people who want the shot, so you've also got to win the fight against vaccine hesitancy.
Dr. John Kinkasong indicated that during the virtual meeting of ministers of health on the continent a week ago, ministers of health on the continent reported that a majority of citizens of their respective countries are now beginning to have interest in getting the vaccines. And therefore, the problem of people who are not willing to take vaccines is not becoming a main issue now. The main issue is to ensure that you get these vaccines, and as soon as they arrive, you are able to administer these vaccines. And countries are saying they stand ready as soon as vaccines arrive. No matter the number, they will be able to do that quickly. We know that South Africa said the same thing when they received vaccines from United States of America, because it was a huge consignment. 5.7 million doses of Pfizer. Of course, it amounts to almost 2.5 million people who will be vaccinated, because with Pfizer, you're talking 2 shots. I think the continent is ready to administer these vaccines, but the problem is the developed countries mustn't hoard the vaccines. Hoarding of vaccines, it is what is going to be a problem, particularly for developing countries.
All right, thank you very much, International News Editor Sophie Mokoena. Now, in